I need you to sit down for this one, Warriors fans, because out of every name you might have expected to hear connected to Golden State this offseason, I promise you this was not on your list. This came completely out of left field, and the more I've sat with it over the last hour, the more I've realized it might be exactly the kind of bold, desperate, swing for the fences move a team in Golden State's situation needs to make. So stay with me because this one is a genuine shock. Let me take you back about an hour. I had the show on, and they were going through Minnesota's off-season plans, talking about how the Timberwolves are trying to retool, how they've been shopping a veteran all-star forward, how they want to chase bigger fish, and I figured, fine, some team will scoop that guy up. I was not thinking about the Warriors. Why would I be? And then the studio shifted. The host stopped, touched his earpiece, and said the 5 words that snap every basketball fan to attention. We've got some breaking news, and they cut straight to Shams Charania. You know by now what it means when they throw it to Shams in the middle of a segment that has nothing to do with him. A phone rang, something is moving tonight, and he had that calm, matter-of-fact, this is really happening delivery. And stay with me, because I'm going to tell you exactly what he reported, but I need you to have the full picture first, because the first reaction to this is pure disbelief, and the second reaction is, wait a minute, that might actually be brilliant. He said, according to sources, that the Golden State Warriors and the Minnesota Timberwolves have engaged in serious trade conversations centered on bringing 3-time All-Star forward Julius Randle to Golden State to play next to Stephen Curry. Julius Randle, a Golden State Warrior, next to Steph. I had to rewind it because of all the directions I thought this offseason might go. A bruising, left-handed, bully ball forward landing in the Bay was not one I had circled. But the more you think about it, the more you start to understand why a team in the Warriors' exact situation might just go for it. Now, I already know what some of you are doing right now. Some of you are immediately going, that doesn't fit Steve Kerr's system at all. That's a ball stopper. That breaks everything the Warriors do. And I hear you. That's the first thing that jumped into my head too. And we are going to break that concern down completely because it's the heart of this whole debate and I'm not going to dodge it. But first, you have to understand why the Warriors might be motivated to take a swing this big. Let's be honest about where this franchise is. We are deep into the final chapter of one of the greatest dynasties the sport has ever seen. Stephen Curry is heading into his 18th season. He's still a dominant offensive force, still one of the most dangerous players alive, but the clock on his prime is ticking loudly, and everybody in that building knows it. And this past season, the Warriors missed the playoffs entirely. Not lost in the first round, missed them. For a franchise with Curry still on the roster, that is a flashing red alarm. Their core of Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler is aging, and the team has struggled for years now to add enough top-tier talent around Steph to truly contend. The window to give Curry one more real run is closing, and they know they cannot afford to sit on their hands and waste another year of his greatness. That's the why. Now here's the how, because this is where it gets interesting. Julius Randle is available because Minnesota wants to upgrade around Anthony Edwards. After a disappointing playoff exit, the Timberwolves have been openly shopping Randle and chasing bigger names, and to do that, they need to move his salary. He's on a deal worth around $33 million next season with a player option after that, so just 2 years left, which makes him movable. Minnesota is looking to turn him into pieces that fit better next to Edwards. And that creates an opening for a team willing to take on a proven scorer. Now, I have to be straight with you about the money, because this is genuinely the trickiest part for Golden State. The Warriors are operating in a tight financial situation, bumping up against the league's spending limits, the aprons, which restrict how they can build their roster. Matching a salary as big as Randle's is not simple for them. It would likely require packaging together a combination of contracts, some of their young players, and draft capital to make the math work. The good news on that front is that the Warriors actually do have draft assets to offer, including their own first-round picks going forward, and a pick in this year's draft. So while it would take some real financial gymnastics, and probably some painful decisions about which young players to include, it is not impossible. And the Warriors front office, led by Mike Dunleavy, has shown a knack for finding talent in creative ways, including the way they landed Jimmy Butler without giving up a massive haul. So don't assume the money makes it impossible. Assume it makes it complicated, which is a very different thing. And let me go a layer deeper on that, because the mechanics are genuinely fascinating here. To match a salary the size of Randall's while staying compliant with the apron rules, the Warriors would likely have to combine several contracts, and that probably means including some combination of their promising younger players and their veteran salaries, plus draft capital on top. That's a real cost. Parting with young talent to bring in a 31-year-old forward is the kind of decision that splits a front office, because you're trading a piece of your post-Curry future for a piece of your win with Curry present. But here's the thing, the Warriors have made it abundantly clear which side of that trade-off they value right now. They are in win-now mode. They are trying to squeeze every last drop out of the Curry era. And on the draft side, they're actually in decent shape, holding their own first-round picks for years to come, plus a pick in this year's draft, which gives them ammunition to get a deal done. So the path exists. It's narrow, it's complicated, and it would require some uncomfortable goodbyes, but it exists, and I'd point you to the Warriors' recent history as a reason to take this seriously. Their front office, run by Mike Dunleavy, has developed a real habit of making its biggest moves not in the summer, but around the trade deadline, and of finding talent in creative, cost-effective ways. The way they landed Jimmy Butler is the perfect example, bringing in a multiple-time All-Star without gutting the entire war chest to do it. Dunleavy himself has talked about how the team has added talent in a smart way in February over the last couple of seasons, and how he's always looking for the next opportunity to upgrade. So when a 3-time All-Star suddenly becomes available, this is not a front office that just sits on its hands. This is a front office that picks up the phone and asks the question, and that's exactly what Shams is reporting they're doing. And let me tell you exactly what kind of player the Warriors would be getting, because I think people who only casually follow the league forget how good Julius Randle is. This is a 3-time NBA All-Star. This is a guy who has been All-NBA, who in his best seasons was a 20-plus point, double-digit rebound machine. He's a powerful left-handed forward who can score in the post, who can put the ball on the floor and create, who can grab a rebound and start the break himself, and who can run an offense as a primary hub when he needs to. He brings size, scoring, and rebounding to a front court, the kind of physical, productive forward play that the Warriors have often lacked around Curry. And I want to put some real meat on that, because I think the casual fan underrates just how productive this guy has been. In his best stretches, Julius Randle has been a 23-24 point per game scorer who also pulls down 10 or more rebounds a night and dishes out 5 assists. Those are franchise cornerstone numbers. Those are numbers that get you named to All-NBA teams, which he has been. And think specifically about the rebounding, because this matters for Golden State. The Warriors, for all their offensive brilliance, have spent years getting hammered on the glass, getting bullied for second chance points, lacking a forward who can simply go rip a rebound out of the air in traffic. Randle does that. He's a load on the boards. He's a body you can throw at the big physical front lines of the West that have given the Warriors fits for years. And he can initiate offense himself, grab a defensive rebound, and push it up the floor in transition, which is a weapon. This is not a one-dimensional player. This is a multi-time All-Star who fills several holes the Warriors have struggled to fill for the better part of a decade. When you frame it that way, the shock of the name starts to give way to the logic of the fit. And here's the dirty little secret about the modern Warriors that makes a player like this so tempting. For all the beautiful ball movement, when the playoffs arrive and the game slows to a half-court crawl, this team has too often had exactly one reliable shot creator, Stephen Curry. Take Curry off the floor, or throw a swarming defense at him, and the offense has cratered, possession after possession, with nobody else able to consistently manufacture a bucket. That single weakness has ended Warriors seasons. And the thing Julius Randle does better than almost anything else is create a tough shot for himself when the offense has broken down and the shot clock is winding down. That is the precise medicine for the precise disease that keeps killing this team in May. But I told you I would not dodge the big concern, so here it is, and it's the center of this entire conversation. The objection is about fit, and specifically about scheme. The Warriors, under Steve Kerr, run a beautiful, free-flowing motion offense. It's built on constant movement, on passing, on cutting, on everybody touching the ball, on Curry flying around screens. And the knock on Julius Randle, fair or not, is that he likes the ball in his hands, that he can be a ball stopper, that his bully ball style of play can grind a fluid offense to a halt. On top of that, his three-point shooting dipped last season, and his defense has been questioned, particularly his ability to guard on the perimeter. So the argument is that Randle is a stylistic mismatch, a square peg in a round hole, a player whose game fights against everything the Warriors want to do. It's a real concern. I'm not going to pretend it isn't, but here's my pushback, and I want you to think hard about this with me. First, let's talk about the Warriors' actual biggest weakness, which is half-court scoring, especially when Curry is off the floor. For years now, the Warriors' offense has had a tendency to completely collapse the moment Stephen Curry sits down. They have struggled, time and time again, to find a player who can simply go create a bucket on his own when the beautiful motion stuff breaks down and they need someone to bail them out. That is the single thing Julius Randle does best. He can get you a tough, contested, self-created basket in the half court. In the playoffs, when the game slows down and possessions get ugly and you need someone who can just go score, that skill is gold. The Warriors have been desperate for it for years. Second, think about the Jimmy Butler situation. Butler is dealing with injury, and there's real uncertainty about what kind of player he'll be when he returns and how many games he'll be available for. If the Warriors are leaning on Butler to be their secondary shot creator and his health is a question mark, then adding another forward who can create offense isn't redundant. It's insurance. It's depth at exactly the spot where they're most exposed. If Butler is out or limited, Randle can carry scoring load. If Butler is healthy, then you've got two physical, shot-creating forwards to throw at the West. Either way, it strengthens a vulnerable area. Third, on the system concern, I gently remind everybody that Steve Kerr is one of the best coaches of his generation, and great coaches adapt. The Warriors have folded ball-dominant scorers into their system before and found ways to make it work, staggering minutes, leaning on a player's strengths, hiding their weaknesses. And honestly, an aging Warriors team might need to evolve away from pure motion and toward a few more isolation, get me a bucket possessions in the half court anyway, because that's how playoff games are often won. Randle might not fit the 2017 Warriors, but the 2027 Warriors, an older win-now team that needs reliable half-court offense, might fit Randle better than you'd think. And let me put this in the brutal context of the conference they have to climb through. The Western Conference is a gauntlet. There are no nights off, no easy rounds, no soft paths to contention. The Thunder are a powerhouse. There are deep, physical, talented teams up and down the standings, and the Warriors just missed the playoffs entirely. You don't claw your way back into contention in that conference by adding a marginal role player and hoping for the best. You do it by adding real needle-moving talent. A three-time All-Star forward is real needle-moving talent. Is it a perfect, seamless fit? No. But in a conference this loaded, the Warriors cannot afford to be precious about perfect fits. They need to add a player who genuinely raises their ceiling, and on talent alone, Randle does that. And here's what I keep coming back to, the thing that sits underneath this entire conversation. The Warriors owe Stephen Curry everything. He is the greatest shooter who has ever lived, the engine of a dynasty, a top 5 player of his generation, and he is in the final act of his career. There is a moral and competitive obligation, if you're that franchise, to put a real, talented, win-now roster around him while you still can. Wasting these final seasons with half measures and safe, quiet off seasons would be a tragedy, and Curry, by every account, is still a player that stars around the league want to play with. The problem has been that the Warriors haven't been able to consistently turn that gravity into actual top-tier talent on the roster. Here's a chance to add a proven star-level scorer. For a franchise that knows the clock on greatness is running out, the willingness to take a big, bold, slightly uncomfortable swing might be the most respectful thing they can do for the man who gave them 4 championships. So let me tell you where my head is at, and then I've got one final thought that I think is the real key to all of this. If this happens, the Warriors add a proven 3-time All-Star scorer to a roster centered on the greatest shooter who has ever lived. Picture it. Curry bending the entire defense with his gravity, pulling 2 and 3 defenders toward him, and a powerful forward like Randle operating in all that created space, attacking a scrambling defense, scoring in the post, cleaning up on the glass. Curry's gravity could actually make life easier for Randle, giving him more room to operate than he's ever had. And when Curry rests, instead of the offense dying, you've got a guy who can keep the points flowing. For a team whose entire mission is to maximize whatever is left of Curry's incredible window, adding that kind of firepower is exactly the kind of aggressive move that keeps you relevant in a loaded Western Conference.